Hello and welcome to Stereotypical, the podcast about music and the people who make it, brought to you by the OX Collective. My name is Liam McGrath and I am, as always, joined by Mr. Jack O'Neill. I guess first thing we should address for any of our YouTube watchers, very different environment to usual. Jack and I aren't even in the same location, we're filming this remote. Would you like to explain why that is, Jacko?
Yes, because I've contracted that dirty virus called Corona, so I am isolating by myself in my bedroom.
That is heavy. How are you feeling? How's it going?
Stress is how I'm feeling. Not having a good time. But I'm on day 6 now, or day 10. It's going all right. A bit boring now, doing nothing. Like, don't get me wrong, I like a day or something where I don't have to do anything or I've got no plans. But when it's a lot of time and you've got to do nothing, it kind of stresses me out. Because as you know, I like to keep busy. I like having a tight schedule.
I was going to say, we've discussed it in previous episodes, and that you're very much a man who likes to keep his schedule fully booked. Have you been making any music?
Yesterday, day 5 is the first day I've worked on music, which shows how lazy I am as a producer, I guess. The football's been keeping me content so far, watching the Euros. 3 matches a day so far, pretty good. But I do have a little list of projects that I want to get through. I remember we were talking to Tim, and he was whether he has a plethora of projects about whether he works on one and opens another one. And so I've been able to narrow it down to what things I like, and I'm going to work on them. That's my plan.
Nice. I guess we should just delve in straight into what we want to talk about in this episode, something that we've discussed before. It's actually one of the ideas that I thought about during the inception of this podcast. As something that I wanted to talk about is this idea of sort of emotionality in music and the way that connects to us as people. Sort of stemming from an essay that you'd written several years ago, back in the college days, throwback. What was that? Do you want to just tell the people a bit about what that was about, what that was a case study of?
Yeah, so it was a unit in college where we had to do a special subject investigation. So we had to pick a topic and we could talk about it, but we had to go in depth. I think it was trying to set us up for the university shit with the research methods and that. And you picked a dead boring one to me, and I picked one that was, how does music evoke emotion? So how can someone listen to a song and then feel happy and sad? And how many different subjects or paths can go into that decision. Sounds boring to some people, but I find it very interesting. I always have found it interesting.
Yeah, I remember reading it at the time and finding it quite interesting. I suppose it's only as I've gotten older and sort of thought more about it that it's become even more interesting, because there's this whole thing of obviously you're very into music, I'm very into music. Arguably, the idea of music and me just making music has commanded almost every facet of the person that I've become, you know what I mean? And I do often think why is this connecting with me so much, you know what I mean? Be it the creation of music or just the listening to music on an emotional level, why does that affect me? Is there anything from, I know it was a while ago, but is there anything from that essay that stood out to you, or anything that you've sort of expanded on and thought about since?
The maddest thing that I remember looking up was a case study, which is an experiment, really. And it was, this guy got a group of people and he injected something into the bloodstream. So when he did this scan on them, it could show the dopamine receptors.
Right.
And he played them a bunch of music and tested what people are feeling to certain songs and stuff. And I remember there was one song that almost everyone connected to. Some people knew the song and some people had never heard the song, but they was all having the same reaction.
Yeah.
So that's pretty strange. That
is crazy. I mean, the thing that always gets me sort of piggybacking off that is how an instrumental piece of music that has no lyrics or no sort of context, shall we say, you're not empathizing with a story or anything. If it's just an instrumental piece of music, that can make you feel something, you know what I mean? And there's no, I mean, obviously there's probably a reason for that sort of physiologically and psychologically, but there's no real reason why you would be able to point at a piece of music and say, that makes me feel this way, because, you know what I mean? It's just a vibe, you know what I mean, for want of a better term. And that's something that's always fascinated me, because you don't really get that with other things. You don't get that with, like, I suppose you do a little bit, but you don't get it with, like, literature or, like, cinema.
So, like, one example I used quite recently talking about this is, like, strawberries, right? Strawberries have this, like, objective taste. Like, everyone can taste a strawberry and be like, yeah, this is how it tastes. But someone will, like, fucking love strawberries, scran them all day, and someone will, like, not want to go near them. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Whereas music hasn't got that objective standpoint. Like, no one, like, someone might listen to a piece of music, like you're saying, like, just an instrumental, and like, oh, that makes me feel sad. And someone can say, oh, well, that makes me feel happy. Like, that's what fucking baffles me. Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And I think as well, it's almost depends what you bring to a piece of music. You know, like we spoke about on the 1975 episode.
There they are. Creeping in.
I know, yeah. All we need now is for you to mention Coldplay, and we fucking, like, stereotypical bingo.
They're in there. They're on the notes.
But yeah, like, we spoke then about, obviously, my friend Kate not thinking that somebody else was upsetting in any way, and actually found it quite the opposite, you know, quite a bop. Whereas I was like, you know, it hits me in the feels. So I think it's often based on your background and your experiences, which is strange, because it's like, that makes it infinitely subjective.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? It's weird how, like, I think if you're listening to someone else's music, I can understand how, like, it can remind you of something, and that's why, like, you know, you feel that way or whatever. But, like, if you're making a piece of music and you're putting your feelings into it, like, how can someone else be like, oh yeah, same? Because obviously they've not gone through the same stuff that you've been through.
Do you ever feel...
Oh, no. I do not. You've been through this? I do not.
Do you ever feel a type of way about a piece of music that you've made that you sort of would about something else that someone else has made? You know what I mean?
No.
I was going to say...
I get too into it. I overthink it a lot when it's, like, my music or, like, our music.
Yeah. I think it's... Even just, like... I don't know, maybe because it's me expelling the situation that I'm writing about, you know what I mean? I'm sort of, like, getting it out. That if I listen back to it, I don't resonate with it the same.
I completely agree. Like, for example, like, with If Anybody Loves Me, like, I know, like, what we mean by the words, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I know the exact situation we're talking about, whereas no one else does. So, like, when I listen to it back, I don't really feel anything, because I know what it is.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the fun part, like, the mystery behind it. Like, when you write shit, I'm like, oh, fucking, that's sick, that. But what does it mean? Do you know what I mean? And I feel like in that conversation, like, you'll tell it, like, not really asked about the story, where I'm like, oh my god, yes, bro. Yes, feel you.
Yeah. Well, that's why I like working with other people as well, you know what I mean? It brings a sort of... they bring their subjective view of your, be it music or, like, your storytelling to it. Like, we've been sat in here many a time, and you've played something that has resonated with me in the same way that if I'd have just come up with that, it probably wouldn't have hit the same. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just because it makes me, I don't know, I don't even know why that is. I don't know if it's just, like, it reminds me of something, or if it's just... Because that's the thing, right? You could play the same piece of music to someone, and then you play it to someone else, and it'd be completely different. Especially if it's instrumental. Obviously, if it's lyrical, like we say, there's that sort of context. But it really is, like, what a person brings to it. You know, like, I saw a thing the other day that was... I mean, I don't want to go too much off topic. It was basically talking about how you can define something... basically, or by all of the things that are, like, subsets of it. So, for example, you probably have a favourite hat, right? You wear caps all the time.
Yeah.
So I could look at that and say, that's a cap, right? But you look at it and you don't just see a cap, you see all the times you've wore it, all the compliments people have given you on it, like, your opinion of it. And I think it's a very similar thing with music. You don't just hear a song, you hear like the Arizona song that you sent me before.
Yeah.
What's that called?
It's called What She Wants.
That song, I'd never heard that before, but I immediately felt nostalgic because it resonated
mad,
with something, and I brought all of my past to that experience, which is crazy.
Yeah, I think that's a fucked vibe for us in general, like 80s music, do you know what I mean? Like, it does make us feel nostalgic, obviously, because it's in the past, right? But, like, we wasn't around in the 80s.
Yeah.
So, like, you know that sort of feeling, like, when you listen to, like, well, for me, it's like fucking Jason Derulo or someone, and, like, it takes you back. You're like, oh, that was good times.
Yeah.
Like, why does 80s music do that when we wasn't there in the 80s? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not like we've been, you know, accustomed to a lot of 80s culture.
Yeah, I mean, there's like an aesthetic that comes with it as well, like within pop culture and within like cinema. So I think even though we weren't there then, we sort of, to a degree, have grown up. And also it's like our parents were around then, and we sort of grow up still ingesting bits of that culture, even though we weren't there, I would say. But also, music from that time, specifically music from now that emulates music from that time, does have a certain emotionality to it that resonates in a different way, you know what I mean? It's not just because it's nostalgic, because obviously, like you say, we weren't there for the time that it's nostalgic for. It's because it's like I feel like you can feel nostalgic in a almost like a sad way, you know what I mean? For like things that necessarily you haven't experienced. I don't know how much that makes sense.
I guess so. But like, I think my point is like just how fast like music changes. Like, if you watch like a compilation on YouTube of just like through the noughties or like through the 2010s, for example, just how fast like the popular genre changes.
Yeah.
So like, it's not like, you know, the 80s was the 80s. It's not like it's been brought through. Like, they have that like 30-year cycle, don't they? Like, things are popular and like it comes back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for the days Chinos come back personally. But like with music, it's mad because like the 80s thing has only just kind of past like 5 years come back.
Yeah.
It just baffles me.
That whole thing does really interest me, because I wonder why stuff does come back, and because it's to a different generation, you know what I mean? It's not like the people who are buying the 80s inspired music now are the people that were in the 80s. It's people like us. But I don't know where it comes from. Like, why do we get so invested in that? Again, I think it's a cultural thing, and it's what you bring to it. So it's like you're not just buying into a certain type of music and the way that makes you feel, but the way it makes you feel is linked with everything that you link that music with. So that, like, there's an aesthetic to it.
One thing I've got like written down here is like people liking different genres of music. Like, is a very common thing now.
Yeah.
But like 10 years ago, I'd say it probably wasn't. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was very normal for like someone to just like, you used to be like just into indie music.
Yeah.
Or like some people just to be into rock music and that's it. But I feel like that was a very strong emotion to music. Do you know what I mean? Like, they know what they're into and they're into it like balls deep. Where now, like, everyone likes all music. Like, every time I talk to anyone about music now, it's like, what music you into? They go, oh, everything really.
Yeah.
Like, it does annoy me a little bit because I'm like, well, you're probably not into everything. Like, what's your, like, what are you into? What's, like, your thing? But it's mad, like, just how everyone is just, like, so accustomed to every genre. And I get that, like, you know, it's, like, more available now.
Yeah.
Like, for example, like, we have, like, how many radio stations in the car, but it doesn't mean you have to like them all.
Yeah.
So just because everything's widely available, how come everyone is so into everything?
I think maybe in the past there was a lot more tribalism in subcultures, you know what I mean? So you'd have a stronger identity with a specific category of music that you listen to. There was the punks, there was the mods, there was the rockers, you know what I mean? Whereas now, maybe like you say, because of the availability of it, those barriers have been broken down. And like, rightly so, you know what I mean? I look down on musical artists that only do one thing and only appeal to one thing and seem to only listen to like the same 5 bands, because it's like, if again, it goes back to the emotional resonance. If something by, if you're in an indie band, but something by George Michael really hits you, then fucking fair fucks. So it should. You know what I mean? And there's no.
Like, do you think that emotion is like I just wonder how it makes people feel. Do you know what I mean? Like, people have like their favourites. Do you know what I mean? And rightly so they should do, because it makes them feel certain things.
Yeah.
But how can someone be like into so many different ponds and feel that strongly about each of them? Do you know what I mean? Like, what like, obviously the rock music and rap music and pop music and like fucking gospel or whatever won't have a lot of things in common. Yeah. Obviously, like, music theory wise, there'll be stuff that links them.
Yeah.
So what is it that's making people feel so strongly about them?
I don't know.
Fucking open-ended question, innit? Like, it makes no sense to me.
It really is. It really is. Because, I mean, obviously it's so subjective. And it's so, like, there's infinite possibilities of shit for people to listen to. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And it's like I'm saying, I think it's a good thing that the social barriers have broken down, because maybe in the past, had there been less social pressure to be a certain type of, to be in a certain type of subgenre, shall we say, then people would have been more open to stuff. But also maybe now, like you were saying, you do just hear stuff more than you did. You know what I mean? Whereas back in the day, you maybe would only hear what you went out your way to hear. So if you heard one band, you'd find out the bands that are in a similar thing and go to the record store and buy some singles by those bands. Whereas now, like, you get your fucking daily mix, and you get people like you sending me YouTube links, and then I pass that on to someone else, and then there's suggested videos underneath that where it's like, oh, well, if you like this, then you might like this, and this is kind of the same but very different at the same time, you know what I mean? And also it's in the making of music, because I think there's so many like genre crossovers these days that, like, it's harder and harder to define something as just this sound.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
get you.
And I think that's a great thing, because it means that we can just resonate with what we resonate with, and the idea of a guilty pleasure has gone out the window, I think, and so it should. You know what I mean? You like what you like, whatever hits with you, you're gonna listen to, and you shouldn't feel a type of way about that, whether it's Kendrick Lamar or.
Yeah, this brings me on to like a good point. Like, when I was working at a different store, like, I met this like little scrawny white Tory kid, right?
Yeah.
And not gonna name names, and he was just telling me like, what he's into and stuff, and he was into like proper mad gangster rap.
Right.
And I was like, I obviously love Kanye, right? And like, it kind of made me think about this as well. But like, I was asking, I was like, how on earth have you got into this? Like, we're on about like, when you listen to something, like, it can remind you of a good time, or you resonate with like the emotion of it.
Yeah.
But like, this guy is never gonna be in a situation that gangster rap artist has been in, or what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So how can like they be into it with like such conviction? Do you know what I mean? And like embody the music themselves. Like, it's just crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like, it goes back to the thing of, it doesn't have to be something that you relate to lyrically. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's
that's
just
the question though, isn't it? Like, how's it evoking that in you then? Like, what is it about that music that, you like so much?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just, so like, obviously, we both quite like The Weeknd, right? Yeah. I couldn't live a more different life to that of The Weeknd. Mm-hmm. But when I listen to The Weeknd, he makes me feel like a king, you know what I mean? And there's a level of escapism in that. There's a level of like, oh, well, even though I can't live this life and I'm not living this life, and I maybe wouldn't want to live that life, just for little moments, I can escape to that world. And that's cool.
Yeah, but what do you think it is? Do you think it's like more the lyrical content, or do you think it's just more like the music production?
Well, it depends on the artist, you know what I mean? Like.
Well, if we're talking about like The Weeknd now, for example.
Well, I mean, with a lot of, obviously, disregarding some of the more popular stuff, but I think with a lot of The Weeknd stuff, you could just listen to the instrumental, and it's that dark vibe. Mm. But I don't think the instrumentals would be anywhere near as special or resonate anywhere near as much if it wasn't for him matching that with his lyrical content. You know what I mean? Which is maybe what makes a good artist, is when you can align the vibe of both like your content and your production into something that's so coherent, and that's what hits people most. But again, like
what
you say,
do you think about like people that like don't like music?
People that don't like music.
Yeah, like have you sure that like I've come across a few in my time, like what music you're into, and they go, oh no, I don't listen to music.
Fucking
what do you mean you don't listen to music?
Fucking heathens, lad.
like that makes me question you so much more if you don't like listen to any music. We know one person, if you're thinking of who I'm thinking of from back in the day.
Yeah.
Like it just makes no sense. Like what do you mean?
Yeah. Can we tell that story? That's a funny story.
No. We'll just leave it,
okay,
on the sideline.
Well, I think it says a lot about your sort of personality traits, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But some people, because of their trait personality, will resonate, will be like more or less emotionally open. So if you're high in openness, which is like the creativity trait, then the likelihood is that you're also higher in negative emotion, which means that music will resonate with you more. You know what I mean? Especially if it's like in the feels music. You're more susceptible to being hit by stuff. But some people, it just isn't even in their register. You know what I mean? You'd probably find that a lot of the people who don't have deeper connections with at least some music find it more difficult to be emotionally open.
Maybe, and that just shows, doesn't it? It just shows a link between music and like feelings.
Yeah.
Like we say emotion a lot, but it's just like feeling anything.
Yeah. Or even just like, to take feelings out of it, it's just a cultural thing. It's just an interest-based thing. And it's insane to me, and probably to you, that someone could go through life and not be touched by music, because everything about who I am has been influenced by my musical experiences. You know what I mean? But some people just be like that.
Yeah, like I've got written out of my notes the Beatles, right?
Oh, fucking hell, here we go.
Because, we won't go into it much now, but like there's this thing where like I don't understand the Beatles, right? I'm massive into music, love a lot of different music. The Beatles I just don't get though.
What?
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but is that
But like opposed to me, like the fucking globally, they're massive, aren't they? Like everyone likes them.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people like them.
Yeah, and I suppose as well it depends what you're listening for. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of sort of electronic music or dance music that I listen to, and I'm like, I appreciate that because of the production, but I don't necessarily know why someone who doesn't care about sounds and like, sonic experimentation would be into that. But they are.
Would enjoy it, yeah.
Yeah. This is the thing, man. It's like, I feel like we could talk for 100 episodes about shit like this because it's so endlessly subjective that you can't really truly put your finger on exactly why something hits with a certain person or group of people. And that's why, like, to a degree, record companies don't know what the fuck they're doing, because it's like you're trying to make a hit and it's not always going to be a hit because you can't predict what people are going to react to a certain thing just based on your thing.
Very interesting video the other day about the music industry, because like the way I would look at it is like, you get signed and then they expect you to deliver stuff, and they kind of like hope on people. Do you know what I mean? But I was watching this video and it was like a guy and he was like telling me that, like, I think he had a viral TikTok song, and he was like straight away, like he was just getting peppered with loads of like record deals, like to sign the song to the label, so they can like promote it as much as possible, why it's like popular, and like after that, like that's it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think that's crazy. Like they're just trying to grab onto like what's popular now instead of like what we're saying, like someone who like we know would make good music, or
it is.
You believe in like the people. It
is crazy, and it's part of the problem with the sort of the way I was gonna say the way the industry is now, but probably the way the industry's always been. You know what I mean? That it's what you have to remember is it's a business for them. They aren't making music. You know what I mean? It's people like us that are making the music. So they're just like, where can we go? Who can we latch onto to get profit? And often they don't even think about the longevity of it, because why would you? If you've got someone who's popping on TikTok and you sign them and they have one massive song, I mean, yeah, it's not as good as having several massive songs, but it's one massive song. One massive song can be fucking cash in claw, you know what I mean? Yeah. And that's why I think Jack Antonoff said something really good once, right? Where he's like, the business and the art side of it are completely separate. You can't make art because it's good business. You just have to make the art and then use the business to try and promote it in the best way possible. They're two completely separate things, because one, like, the business side isn't really thinking about artistic expression as much as the artist is. You know what I mean? Like, obviously they're trying to get something that's good, but good to them is something that is commercially good to a degree. Like, they need to know that they're at least going to get, like, a return on the money they're putting in.
Yeah.
So you can't make music that you think is going to resonate with people, you think is going to pop off. You just have to make music that you want to make, and then the people will do with it what they want to.
Yeah, but, like, yes, we're saying this, but, like, they get so it's like a certain point, doesn't it? Like, for example, like, I've got another thing here, like German charts, right? German chart music. I believe is going to be, very different to what our chart music is.
Right.
But god damn it, I bet you Ed Sheeran fucking pops off there as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, isn't it mad that there's just, like, these people, like Ed Sheeran, like, when he had, like, 8 of the top 10.
That are, like,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that are, like, global success.
Yeah.
And it resonates
like we're
with
saying
everyone.
now, like, if it's popping, but there's just, like, them people, like Coldplay, for example. I've had to step back at points. There's ding. Like, do I like this song because it's Coldplay, or do I like the song because of the song? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've got to catch yourself sometimes and think about it.
Yeah, it is. And that, full circle, it's what you bring to it.
This is what bothers me, I'm sorry, people, about Beyonce. I'm just going to quickly put it out there, right? Like, I respect Beyonce for everything that she's done, right? She's worked her ass off to get where she is. She's queen bee, she's massive.
Yeah.
But, like, every song that I'm like, oh, this Beyonce song is this is my favourite Beyonce song. And I'll Google it, and, like, she didn't write it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it burns me. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to pick a different one. I'm like, oh, I like this one now. Look it up. Not her.
Well, there's the thing, like, how much does that really matter? Or does it matter to you? Like, because I used to be, obviously, being a little, like, arrogant indie kid that I was back in the day. I was like, if you don't write your own songs, you fucking bullshit. You know what I mean? And to a degree, I still believe that, because I'm out here trying to make a shitload of music, and it's often me or me and you or me and the two lads. You know what I mean? And we're putting that graft in. But if you really like the song, does it matter, or does it are you saying it detracts from the song if they didn't write it?
This is what I'm on about, like the emotional availability of it. Do you know what I mean? Like, are people attracted to what they're getting from the song, or are people attracted to what Beyonce is delivering? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I've just come to the conclusion, like, like how much I like One Republic, right?
Right.
And, like, so a lot of songs that I do like Halo, for example, is just written by Ryan Tedder.
Right.
And that's where, like, I've got to make the link. Do you know what I mean? Like, I like Halo a lot, but I probably like it because it's what Ryan Tedder's bringing to the table.
Yeah. I mean, but especially if you like the person who's bringing it to the table, that matters even less. That it's like, you know what I mean? If you resonate with it, you resonate with it.
Yeah, no, but that's my point, is, like, how different people can feel to the music because it is either the song or, like, the songwriter or the singer.
There are some artists that, like, people will probably eat their shit up no matter what. You know what I mean? When you get to a Beyonce level, there's always going to be a decently sized group of people that are going to fuck with whatever you're putting out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's the same.
Like Kanye, for example.
Well, this is the thing, right? I was going to say, like, Drake. Drake's a good example. I feel like Kanye's fallen off. Kanye was that, but his public persona and all this Jesus-y shit has sort of taken him on another path. You know what I mean? And that's fair enough because he's reached a point where like he's been in the game for time. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like, who gives a fuck? Like if Kanye's popping, like Kanye doesn't need to be popping. Kanye just do what Kanye does.
Yeah, this is mad. Like, as obviously Kanye is like my favorite rapper, but like I like a lot of like new Kanye compared to old Kanye. Like I still like old Kanye stuff, but it's like a different vibe in it.
Yeah.
But like I feel closely related to the newer stuff.
Yeah, and maybe that's because I don't know. You're probably not the kind of person to like something just because it's by that person. You know what I mean? It takes a lot to say that Kanye is my favorite rapper, but
this song is shit.
But yeah, his older stuff doesn't really hit with me as much. You know what I mean?
So like summer is like on the doorstep now, and it's a lot sunny now. It's very warm, and like this is something I mentioned to you yesterday, like about your like seasonal feeling disorder, whatever it is, like how you feel like sad in winter times and stuff.
Seasonal affective disorder.
I think it's mad how like the music changes like through the year as well. Like just how like upbeat it will be like around June.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how mellow it gets towards Christmas and stuff.
That is quite interesting as well. And that is weird that like dictates people's release schedules and stuff. Like I remember when we put out
exactly.
When we put out,
there's 2 songs now that I'm working on. Right, one of them is like bit bopper and a bit happy. So if I was ever thinking about releasing that, I'm gonna have to time it for when it's gonna bang.
Yeah.
Whereas the other one I've got, which is like a quite slow and emotional one, like I'd have to time again for a different time of year.
Yeah, I think like when we did, when I did the Strangers tunes, you and I and Hollows, that was like very much we were on that like boppy vibe. You know what I mean? That summer vibe, and we almost had to be like, quick, we need this out by like, I think we got it out in August in the end. We just about got it for the end of summer. You know what I mean? But I was like, you can't be releasing upbeat summery tunes where the picture is like you and the boys on the beach if it's fucking December, because it just doesn't fit.
Yeah. But then in accordance to that, like we also have like the thing we do all the time, like the sad pop vibes, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you have like happy music and like sad lyrics, which is like a proper fucking spanner in the works, like this sort of conversation where like how music makes you feel about something. Like for example, you know Golden by Harry Styles?
Yeah.
Poppy song, and it, you know, quite a feel good song. And the word obviously says the most is golden because it's like the fucking title. But after golden, the most used words are alone, scared, and broken.
That's mad. That is crazy. Well, this is the thing. I think the music matters more. Right? I've come to discover this in my old age. Obviously, you want lyrics to be good, and lyrics can resonate with people. But shit like that, people are going to hear it before they like think about it. So they're going to just catch the vibe of it, which in general is the melody and the instrumental, and not think about the vocals as much.
Meaning.
Yeah, until maybe like, you know, like I don't really think about lyrical content massively, especially if it's a catchy song or a poppy song, until after I've listened to it a couple of times, you know what I mean? The first time you're just sort of riding on the wave.
Yeah, this is one thing I'm experiencing a lot with the Wombats, right? Because the Wombats are my shit at the minute.
Yeah.
All over him. I love him. But it's good because like I'm not listening to one song and getting bored of it. Like I'm listening to like, you know, 30 new songs at once, so I'm getting into them. And like it's only recently now when I've been listening to them for like 5 months that I'm starting to like dive into what they're actually saying. Do you know what I mean? And it's quite the like what you're saying, like the vibe's quite boppy and stuff for a lot of the stuff that I like, but some of the words are like a bit darker. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that
it's so strange.
That's why it's cool because there's almost like layers to it. Like
layers,
layers, stack the layers,
stack the layers.
That's such a niche reference, Aces to Aces. If anybody knows. But yeah, like that's what's so cool about it is, because there's layers to it, you can... The best songs are the songs that, like, will keep you interested for time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, I still some of my favourite songs I listen to now and still hear things, be it production elements or like one-liners or whatever, that I hadn't heard, that I hadn't really picked up on before. But like the best songs are the songs that just keep giving. So if you've got that great emotional resonance in the instrumental and the melody to get you hooked in, you're going to listen to it more, and then over time you'll start to dissect the lyrics.
Yeah, man. That's what I love about production so much. Like when an artist or like a producer can like break down the production, which you know I'm into a lot anyway.
Yeah.
And like you listen to something, it's like I would fucking have never heard that before if you just didn't solo it.
Yeah.
And that baffles me. That's what I love about it so much.
Yeah, it is crazy, and it's mad to think. It's almost like if you're cooking something, like you might not taste the garlic, but it's the, you know what I mean? It's adding something to the dish, but it's not like the main thing.
Like the secret ingredient soup from Kung Fu Panda.
Exactly, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden you sat there, and you hear just panned far right, just a little synth that you wouldn't have noticed before, and you're like,
yeah,
flavour.
We're gonna sample that, by the way.
Would you like to get into some tactical tracks?
Are we going straight into it just like that?
We can go straight into it just like that. Let's leave it going, baby.
I'm not gonna lie to you. They have, like, even though I decide like what this question is, I have struggled with this one.
Really?
Yeah, so I will let you go first.
Well, hang on.
Tactical.
Yeah, I was gonna say for newer viewers, explain Jack's tactical tracks.
Tactical tracks, for those who don't know, is where I will put a question to Liam about a song and try and link it to a situation, an environment, and we can answer it in our own personal opinions. Yeah.
Yeah.
So today, the tactical track question is, if you got to choose what the national anthem could be, what would you choose?
Are you throwing it to me first?
I'll throw it, fuck it, go on.
Well, I was trying to think of like a funny answer to this. Like, what would it be hilarious to listen to the nation sing? So I'm thinking like something by Young Thug, maybe Best Friend. Have like, you know, a football match there, everyone stood there trying to rap fucking unintelligible Young Thug lyrics.
Right, okay.
Or like Hotline Bling, because it'd be funny. You know what I mean? Imagine that.
Hotline Bling.
Now rise for the national anthem, Hotline Bling.
Right,
Or
okay.
what's that song? What's that one song with The Weeknd and Wiz Khalifa and Ty Dolla $ign that's like really explicit? Oh nah. If that was the national anthem, you heard that tune?
I don't think so.
Filth. If that was the national anthem, hilarious. Imagine that. The Queen.
National filth is what it is. National filth.
The Queen standing there, like fucking singing about and stuff. Gross.
Wow.
Go ahead.
Might have to bleep that one out. That's a bad one.
You can say that.
Yeah, I don't think we can, Paul. You're gonna have to sort that out a minute ago.
Go on. What's your one? I feel like you've probably got more of a serious answer to this.
I've got two. This is the two that I could settle on. One of them, one of them's like a piss take. You've just gone down pure piss take route. One of them, I think, will like make sense. So, but the piss take one I've gone is you know, Baby Cakes, Three of a Kind. That's a good one.
I do not. No.
But as soon as you'll know what I mean. As soon as you'll know what I mean.
Like,
but
mate.
My serious choice is Mr. Brightside. I'm going for the national anthem.
Yeah, I can see that. I would agree. I mean, it's one of them where I'm sort of over it. Like, I'm annoyed by it when it comes on, just 'cause I've heard it so much.
Isn't everyone, though? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think everyone is over it until, like, you're in the situation where, like, obviously, like, after a few beers is, like, a prime example.
I was going to say...
Like, if you have a bit of a drink and Mr. Brightside comes on, you lose your shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
My shoes are going over the fence.
That would be hilarious. I feel like that's also a very British thing. You know what I mean?
It is, isn't it? Like, considering an American band.
Yeah. To watch the nation while out to Mr. Brightside would be amazing.
Yeah, you can see it already, can't you? Just like the England team just lining up,
Yeah.
screaming, jealousy.
I often wonder if, like, you know, like, the royals, you know, you're talking about the Queen, the national anthem. I wonder if she'd get down to something like that.
What do I think the Queen listens to?
I mean, it almost definitely isn't the Killers.
No, yeah, maybe. I was trying to think how she's listening, you know what I mean? Is she like old school and she's like just record CDs only?
She's
Like, if she's like still subscribed to like a CD service platform that will send her shit, you know what I mean?
she's there on Deezer with a
Yeah.
AirPod Max.
Or is she fucking Tidal only?
Purely for rates for the artist, innit? Tidal, AirPod Max, Young Thug, blaring.
I'd have the Queen down. I think she listens to a bit of H or Dave, you know, something a bit more recent. Don't think she'd be down for Migos.
I don't think the Queen has anything in common with H or Dave.
H or Dave?
Yeah.
I think she'd like them both. I think she'd want to stay relevant, you know, stay down with the kids and that.
I couldn't agree less.
Well, what do you think she listens to?
Like some old shit. Like fucking Mozart and all that shit.
The Queen does not listen to Mozart. She ain't feeling anything from Mozart. She's been through some shit, the Queen. She wants to resonate.
Are the Migos just like Beethoven of our time?
We're going to end it there, ladies and gentlemen, because I can't be arsed with this anymore.
Okay, let's call it a day. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in to this episode of the Stereotypical Podcast. Thank you to Jack joining us remotely and being very patient while we sort out how to do this over Zoom. Cheers to Paul as well, behind the camera, for helping out.
Big up Paul. Always
Big up Paul. Yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, all the links are below to our social medias, our Instagram, our Facebook, our website. You can also subscribe for more. If you're watching this on like Apple Podcasts, rate, is that a thing that they do? Just leave us a nice review, comment, do something good for us. Thanks for listening. See you later.